Great to see you. Thanks for the lube. Appreciate the lube, really. Great gift. Swag bag win.
So we're really happy to be here. Thanks, Elena and Ashley and everyone at Women in Digital who invited us to come share our story. And we know we're in the last slot of the last day of this amazing conference. So thanks to all of you for sticking around to hear our story. I'm Keating.
And I'm Erica Fite.
And we're going to show you, tell you a little bit about one of our favorite clients and
who happens to be a Columbus local
True.
native. Yep.
And how we hooked up.
First, let's start with a little video here.
Sex.
Dildo.
Clitoris.
Cock ring.
Ejaculation.
Penis.
Reverse cowgirl.
Vagina.
Blowjob.
G-spot.
Balls.
Nipple clamps.
Oral.
Strap-on.
Doggy style.
Foreplay.
Vagina. Orgasm. Benoit balls.
Anal.
Vibrator.
Okay, so that might not be your usual office vocabulary, but at our office, it's just another day on the job. And it wasn't always that way. It is that way now, but it wasn't always.
So as a bit of background on our agency, Fancy, which we started 7 years ago, we set out to be an agency that was going to elevate what matters to women. And we wanted to do that with work that was going to be interesting and relevant and motivating to women, and that also would work as a place where women wanted to work. So remember, it was 2011, and at that time, only 3% of creative directors were female. That was pretty surprising to us when we found that out. And so we took a look at the industry and a long view of what that would mean for our careers as two creative directors. And we decided that the sanest, most practical, conservative, reasonable thing for us to do was to quit our jobs and start our own agency, which is what we did. So when we talk about elevating what matters to women, we're not hopping on a bandwagon. This is really who we are and where we've been and what we think is important for the industry. And when you look around right now, you can see that women are the cultural conversation. And you would think, therefore, that it would be really easy for us to just rake in the new business.
Yeah, of course. So normally, when you're looking for new business, or at least what we've learned about it, or what you read about it, or what you might hire a coach that's a little bit too expensive and you can't afford to teach you about it, is that you should look for clients and categories where you have a lot of experience. You want to look for potential clients that have a budget, that want to do some advertising, and that you really hope you can do some good work for. And that's what everyone does, right?
Well, that wasn't always working for us. So we decided to throw all that out and rethink how we were approaching clients. And we decided it didn't matter if we had any experience in the industry. It didn't matter if the client had any money or any reputation for doing good work. We were going to go after clients that shared our point of view and that wanted to make a difference for women. And that would be really fun to work on because it's our own agency, so we get to do that, right? And we started to think about clients that needed help speaking authentically to women. Naturally, beer came to mind. Then so did finance. And then so did sex toy stores.
And then we thought, yes, we want one of those. Of course, that's what we need. So first we thought about reaching out to the feminist stores like Babeland, but we realized they're already doing such a good job talking to women. So then we looked at the traditional adult retailers, and they really were not. And we thought, well, maybe they need our help. Because, they just weren't quite, they weren't welcoming to women. So we did a lot of Googling, and Katie did a lot of search history clearing.
Yeah, it's true.
And we just saw that these places were not welcoming to women, and we wondered if they even wanted to talk to women. And we also wondered if we even wanted to work on a place that we wouldn't even want to walk into. I mean, would you even want to shop in that store? Was this too much of an uphill battle?
Right. So then, in all the Googling that we were doing, we came across this article in Playboy.com, don't ask, but it was quoting Pete Potenzini, who's the director of marketing for Lion's Den, 48-store adult retail chain, headquartered right here in Columbus. And he said, everything's changed. These days, we need to attract women and couples, not just to thrive, but to even survive.
Right, because it seemed like their traditional offerings, which were DVDs on the side of the highway, just weren't quite cutting it anymore. Because of things like internet and streaming and all that digital stuff. And so in order to stay in business, they still had to sell stuff. And in order to sell things, they needed to attract women and couples. And that's when we knew that, yes, we're born to work on Lion's Den. Because we know what matters to women. We knew that if we could change the perception of Lion's Den for women and couples, it would make a huge difference in their lives. And we really thought we could do some good creative too. So.
Right. So we thought, what the heck? Let's just pick up the phone and call Pete, see what he has to say.
I can't believe Katie's even bringing that up, because when that happened, when we called Pete, she wasn't even part of the conversation. I'm talking on the phone, and Katie's freaking out. She ran over to the couch. She puts a pillow over her head, and she's like crying. It was so weird.
I wasn't crying, but I was freaking out a little, because my background in advertising is big global agencies, very blue chip, accounts like Estee Lauder and L'Oreal and P&G, and we wanted to have those kind of big accounts at Fancy. And so as Erica's dialing the phone, I was thinking, be careful what you wish for. What if we actually get Lion's Den? What if that happens? And then, what's P&G going to think if we're doing work on this?
Okay, so that was obviously before she made Nipplegasm one of our Instagram headlines. And that's when we really realized that this conversation needed to be normalized, especially if there were some people in our own office that were having trouble with it.
Yeah. So Pete was hard to get. His upper management agreed with him to a point, but only to a point. They didn't want to do anything that was going to alienate or isolate that original core customer that they had. The guy who's pulling off an exit 23 to pick up a DVD or a magazine. We wanted to do, so we kept in touch with Pete for over a year. We called, we emailed, rinse and repeat, and repeat.
We waited such a long time. And the more that we waited, the more we thought about it and talked about it and learned about women's sexual wellness and empowerment, the more we realized that we really had to get this account. And it became more than just about getting an account. This was really about making a difference for women. We felt that the world really needed this work. I mean, there were women across the country that needed to have orgasms.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There were even some women who had never had an orgasm, ever. The facts were shocking. And they needed the confidence to just be able to walk into that store and get whatever they wanted. And if we didn't help them, who was going to help them? I mean, this really was a public service.
So after over a year of calling and emailing and following up and staying in touch and doing all that stuff that you're supposed to do when you're going after new business, we did something we never do. We offered to do spec. We're a small agency. We can't afford to do spec for people. And also, even more important than that to us is that we just don't believe in doing that. But in this case, we made an exception because after over that year of getting to know Pete, we knew he had his head and his heart in the right place, and he just needed a little help convincing his upper management of what he wanted to do. And we knew also that if we didn't help him, we would never have the chance to put women's needs front and center with this client. So we set a couple of ground rules. Pete could look but not touch. Unless he paid, that work was going to remain ours. We were not going to give it away for free.
Yeah, women have been doing that for too long. So, the work was great. Everyone loved it. But they didn't buy it. So, that said, the good news was they did give us, they did ask us for a proposal for creative against a new brief. So, like, great. So we did the proposal, sent it away to Pete, and then we waited again, and we're just waiting, thinking, oh, shoot, after all this time, isn't there something we can do to just show Pete a little love? And then someone, perhaps me, had a brilliant idea. Like, why don't we send our own, like, corn-fed Midwestern girl, Katie, out here to Ohio, and she can meet Pete, because none of us had even met him in person yet, and she can go on some store tours, and that will just seal the deal.
Right. So Pete picks me up at the airport, and we hit the road. I've traveled across the world for my job, but I have to say that stretch of I-71 was some of the toughest terrain that I've traveled. Because the whole time I have this insane internal monologue in my head going, oh my God, I'm in this car with this guy that I want to be my client, and we're talking about male enhancement pills, Pornhub, and vibrators. And I'm just saying, like, okay, breathe, it's gonna be fine. And then we go to the store, and we're walking around the aisles, and I'm thinking, I can't believe that I am talking to this guy about the merits of, like, phallic versus designy vibrators, and I want him to be a client. And, like, how did this happen? What am I doing here? And for the love of God, why didn't we send Erica? But it turns out Pete is the most excellent guy. He's a great client, and at this point, there is nothing we can't talk about.
So it worked. It was a great idea. And Katie's trip sealed the deal. And Pete signed the proposal, and Katie came back, and we got to work, but we were in handcuffs.
Right. There were a couple of restraints, you might say. One, of course, was the network censors. So our assignment at first was a 30-second television commercial. So we needed to make a trip to Lion's Den as normal as a trip to Kroger, except we couldn't show anything or say anything about what you could actually buy at Lion's Den. And that was great. And now I've totally...
So, no, but the work was great.
Yeah, the work was really great.
Yeah, and what else about the... yeah, the work was great. And let's see, what else happened?
Oh my God, I'm panicking now.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh. This is the thing about Pete. Because Pete is, well, first of all, he's an art director from the past. And
he's a great guy. He's an art director who appreciates great creative, and he wants to do really good work.
And we think now that means there might be a future for all of us. But Pete is such a great guy, and when it came to production, we had to pull a few favors, because you see, Pete, though he is really, really, really a great guy, he has a super tiny,
little,
very small budget. Micro budget.
It was a micro budget.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So we introduced him. You know, what do? You introduce him to all your friends. So that's what we did. And I mean, so, but, you know, friends like directors, producers, cinematographers, and as you guys know, people are much more willing to do favors when they are excited about an idea. So everyone was really happy to hop on board. And when it came to casting, it was so much fun. I mean, we had these women that were hilarious and smart and just very happy to be part of a sex-positive project. And when it came to the actual shoot, it felt like everyone believed in it like we did, and we think that actually shows in the final mark. So we'll show some of that to you guys. Here's the first spot. So you can see that in that case, we put sexual wellness squarely in the camp of self-care and showed that it's just as important as any other daily workout, of course. The next one, you'll see that there is no time that is not the right time for a little fun and connection.
What makes Granny Granny? First, there's the pork loin. Ooh. Am I right? And then there's the knitting. That one-piece jumpsuit she made for me sure turned a lot of heads. Yeah. And of course, her collection of glass figurines. Watching your every move. So raise your glasses. Happy birthday!
So the campaign's been running for about 9 months, and we have moved the needle and elevated the conversation for sure there. Women and men, I guess too, who never would have thought about going to Lion's Den decided to give it a shot. For example, Valentine's Day, which you may imagine is their big holiday season, their sales were way beyond their expectations.
Right, and the results for us were great too. We really, well, first of all, this was not a one-night stand. So we really found by understanding who we are deeply, we were able to accurately target who we wanted to go after, and then aggressively and successfully pursue them. And so the campaign you saw was actually much more work, and we did a bunch of things. For instance, there's a poster that the client made for International Women's Day. Now there's going to be a new poster every year, and and here it is. And then, and we're working on the 2019 campaign, and so the relationship is better than ever.
And now I can say dildo in front of all of these people. So that's it.
So thanks for listening to our story.
Yeah.
Thanks for staying.